Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. There's another paid request, this time for Nev Soul. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, topics, reactions, reviews, commentaries, whatever it may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, Nev Soul wanted me to talk about the 2000 film Frequency, which was great to rewatch this film again, because I've always enjoyed this movie. It's a great mix of sci-fi, a cop movie, like thriller, but also a very heartwarming father and son story. And that's the part that works the best. The other parts work, but that works the best, and that's why a lot of times when people bring up the movie Frequency, you see a lot of people kind of light up. Oh, I remember that film. Because it's a very heartwarming story. It has a great cast. You got Dennis Quaid, you have Jim Caviezel, you also have Andre Brauer. It's from the same director who did, I think, Primal Fear, and then would do that film Fracture, which I remember liking with Ryan Gosling and Anthony Hopkins. I know there was another film that came out just a few years ago that's kind of like this movie, called Don't Let Go. I think it was around 2019. I know a lot of people hate it, including my friend Michael Keane, the Choice Voice. He hated that film. I actually like that film still. I'm fine that there's no explanation as to why it's happening, because there's countless Twilight Zone, all sorts of episodes, inspired stuff that have done the same thing. And no matter what the explanation is, it's always going to be goofy or not realistic, because it's sci-fi, so I'm fine with that. Here there is an explanation, this Aurora Borealis. Because what happens is, you have Dennis Quaid, a firefighter, around 1969, and then his son, in the future, modern time, like 30 years, and Jim Caviezel in modern time is a cop, and he's a bit emotionally cut off because of the death of his dad back in the day, and he's not really good with relationships, and he's centered on his job. And you tell, like, the modern time a bit more cynical, but then when it comes back to the 60s, much more of a uplifting air to it, so to speak. Much more innocent times. I thought the director did a nice job capturing the feel of both those time periods. Dennis Quaid, I've always been a big fan of, whether it be in Jaws 3 or Inner Space or Vantage Point or any of the sort. And this is definitely one of his best roles. And Dennis Quaid's character has his ham radio in the 60s that he uses a lot. And in the present time, one of his friends find this ham radio. Oh yeah, your dad used to use this, and he always told us not to use it because it's not a toy. So Jim Caviezel starts messing around and using it. They start communicating. They don't know who they are. One is the other. Until eventually they realize, holy shit. Because this Aurora Borealis thing, a son is able to connect with the dad. And I thought the movie did a nice job writing-wise, where of course there'd be doubts, but then because of certain information, there's a bit understanding and realization. And I thought Dennis Quaid pulled off that New York type of accent feel naturally. And I think even though they're talking to each other over this radio, I thought they had really good chemistry. They worked rather well. And you see, like, the son brighten up as he's talking to his dad again. And it's a great example of a story of getting a second chance. Now, from what I understand, this originally was supposed to be a Renny Harlin Sylvester Stallone film. Like, Renny Harlin directing and Sylvester Stallone starring in it. But Stallone didn't do it because he wasn't getting paid enough. Which was... That, and I love Stallone. Really? Yeah, I'm harsh on Stallone because I love Stallone. because I know what he can do, and I know what he's capable of, and I know he did a great set of movies. This is a time when he was picking the wrong projects, like Driven. Like, you don't do this film, but you do Driven. Like, that's when Rennie Harlan and Stallone got back together. It could have been something like this. I love the film as is, but it would have been really interesting to see Stallone play that type of role. Firefighter, more of a thriller. I think that would have been really cool, really interesting. I think that could have helped Stallone quite a bit, because again, his career was not doing the best at that time. I mean, Judge Dredd had flopped. It just wasn't that good of a movie. What was wrong? I mean, that was when he was, like, Driven didn't do well, as it didn't, because it sucked. I like Dick Carter. That came around the same time, but sadly that film bombed. But again, I do like Dick Carter. I guess in retrospect, hey, at least I got that one and I like, and this film I like. So maybe in my eyes it worked out, because I get two movies I enjoy, but this film wasn't a blockbuster, but I think it made a bit of money, and it definitely was more critically hailed than a lot of Stallone's films at that time. So I think for Stallone himself, it was the bad decision career-wise, but, I still, enjoy this film quite a bit. So the emotionally distant cop talking to his dad, and it does a nice job detailing the time. I would not say time travel, but it's not that, but the time distortions, where you're able to change stuff and how that comes into play today. Like, there's a bit where, wait a minute, there's this killer. Well, I guess I'm jumping ahead. Yeah, the hopeful past and the cynical future, and it's just a very nice, warm relationship between these two. That's just very nice to see, and it's one of those movies that, in a weird way, you kind of live vicariously through the characters. I think a lot of people do that when they watch this movie. And if it's not your dad, then it's either some other relative or some other thing. Or, like, you can imagine your feelings, and they feel natural coming from these performers in the movie. And it also creates an interesting story, because it's not just a second chance at saving his dad, and doing it creates these new memories in Jim Caviezel's head. But it's a pretty decent script. It doesn't get confusing. Doesn't go over your head. And meanwhile, because of certain changes, there's this case that Jim Caviezel is working on, where there's now more murder victims because we changed things. And like the script does a good job portraying the characters as likable, sensible, and wanting to do the right thing. Like, listen, this is our fault. These people died because we changed something. There's a way we can fix this, so we got to do it. And this Quaid is like, I'm a firefighter, but he quickly accepts because he knows it's the right thing to do. Lo and behold, decent people as decent characters. Not just pricks and one-sided, one-dimensional assholes like a lot of characters are written in today's age. There's heart, there's warmth. The rapport at times, there's little bits of humor in there. And then on top of this heartwarming drama, you get, a nice thriller aspect as well. With Dennis Quaid go up against this killer back to the day, while Jim Caviezel's looking up stuff in modern time. And the way the time distortion, like, there's a point Dennis Quaid gets a killer grabbed his wallet, left it, and Jim Caviezel, it's got his fingerprints on it. Put it under this floorboard, and boom, in an instant, is able to arrive there. So it's a really cool idea of this time thing being utilized, I think, fairly well compared to, like, Avengers Endgame. Like, the way they used time, I thought, in my opinion, was terrible. This, I thought, was a lot more interesting. And it's hard to, you have to put, like, a sci-fi and a thriller and a drama, but it merges all three of those fairly well. And getting more into spoilers, for those who haven't seen it, spoilers. Like, there's a part that because of their changes, now the mom has died. And the desperation to save her, and Dennis Quaid's in over his head. He's not Superman. He's not a superhero. But he's doing the best that he can. When little action scenes do happen, they're efficiently shot. Like the very beginning of the film, where it shows Dennis Quaid on the job as a firefighter. They're using real fire, real explosions. There's not like a lot of over-the-top CGI work, or at least noticeable ones. Even later on in the film, when it's this, will he live, won't he live? The way the fire is used, and going down the slide, and real fire, real explosions, done on camera for real. It makes it easier to swallow the fantasy of the film that we're watching, the escapism, where you not have this whiplash of like bad CGI, but then here's real people. It's something that I think a lot of directors don't, or they underestimate. And it was a decently shot film from the director. Other thriller aspects, I do like the bit when Dennis Quaid gets caught, and he's not a super spy, but he uses a bit of his firefighter knowledge in order to escape the police station. It was done in a way that I could understand and find believable enough. I don't think it was that much of an insult of intelligence. Andre Brauer, good actor. He's popped up. He was in The Mist with Thomas Jane, among others. He's a guy who's both in the past and in the present. Because he was a friend of the dad, now he's a friend of the son. I thought he served the story well. I didn't think any of the actors were bad. Like the guy who plays the killer, the mom, everyone played their roles fairly well. I forget the guy who was Jim Caviezel's buddy. I recognize him though because he was Jim Carrey's buddy in The Truman Show. I mean, he was part of the whole group behind the scenes, but he was playing Jim Carrey's buddy. He was in that film as well. So it's an interesting story that has a good heart to it, big old beating heart to it, and super spoilers where you get to the end where this is juxtaposition of stuff going on in the past with the killer, then also Jim Caviezel being attacked by the killer, and in a way they're both inadvertently helping each other out. Like one helps the other and vice versa with the voices of the killer. One hears it, what the hell's that? And then there's a shout out that helps Jim Caviezel out in this situation. I thought that was a nice bit of the screenplay or direction. Because it didn't feel like a cheap cop out. One cool moment, last time I would say spoilers, the cause and effect, where back in, fucking Dennis Quaid blows the fucking hand off the killer, and so it cuts back to the present. You see the hand like disappear. It's kind of a horrific moment. I mean, the killer deserves it, but it's a horrific moment just seeing the hand just fucking disappear. This is the thing is like, what are the actual rules? Are the actual rules? There's so many other ways you do it. How much does the butterfly effect? Usually, one thing will change everything, but how much can you really do that and still make a comprehensive story? That's always a tough thing when you deal with either time travel or time distortion, or however you want to put it. And when you get to the ending where everything's worked out and there's the mom and there's the dad, and in fact things worked out so well that now Jim Caviezel has a son of his own and they're playing baseball. And I'm not really into Garth Brooks, but I do love this song. These are my favorite song from Garth Brooks. Will You Come Back to Me? I think it's a fantastic song. It was a great way to end the film. And I think for a lot of people, they tear up at the ending because it's just a very sweet, satisfying finale. Whether you want to put your own personal experiences or even not into it, I think there's a lot of people that, in a way, without the killer part, want to experience this situation of this second chance and just how it works out. Again, Dennis Quaid's interviews with performances helped that very well. That song at the end is a perfect choice. Makes me want to go listen to the song again after I get done with this review. And Frequency, like I say, if you like sci-fi that makes you have a good feel of a beating hard in your chest, that makes you smile. It's got the thriller aspects, it's got a little bit of action aspects, some foot chases, and again the firefighting aspects. It gives a lot of what the audience wants. Thrills, character work, good acting, and like I said, a great heartwarming story that doesn't feel fake or phony. It feels natural and earned. It feels earned. There's a lot of times that a movie will try to force this heartfelt thing. Like, that's one of my issues with Patch Adams. I don't think it's... If you've seen Patch Adams and Robin Williams, you get to that third act, I don't think it's earned. And it kind of makes me not really care about the film. This... It's very different circumstances, but I'm just saying, like, to make you feel a certain... I don't feel manipulated. I feel it's very much earned. I do think it's much better than Don't Let Go. Yes, I do think this is a much better film than Don't Let Go. But Don't Let Go, I still think is a 3.5 star film. This is easily a 4-star out of 5 film. Easily. Maybe more, because I don't really have a lot of issues with it. So. Now I'm trying to think, do I have any issues with it? Not really. I can't really think of any big problems I have with the film. So, yeah, Frequency, if you've never seen it, is highly, highly recommend it. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.